Good morning, and thank you all for coming to this historic occasion. Before I begin with the reason that we're here, I would like to take just a moment and ask you to observe a moment of silence for the Marine that we lost last night, who, member of the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, embarked here on Iwo. Thank you. It's always great to stand on the deck of a Navy ship, and it's particularly great to stand on the deck of a Navy ship in New York Harbor. The last time I was privileged to do that was for the commissioning of the USS New York, very close to here, in fact, this same pier, in November of '09. And that was a memorable day for the Navy and for the city of New York, because the USS New York contained 7.5 tons of steel from the World Trade Center. And we were able to honor the memory of the 3,000 men and women who perished in those terrorist attacks. We were able to recognize the enduring importance of this city and this state to the Navy and the Marine Corps. And we were able to celebrate the service of tens of thousands of New Yorkers to this country. And in a way, we've come full circle, because I, like everybody here, sat and watched with an amazing degree of pride as we heard the President announce almost a month ago that the most wanted terrorist on earth had been brought to justice by the United States military. And as important as that was, and as brave and good as those warriors were that carried out that mission, one point I want to make is that everybody who wears the uniform of America, everybody who sails on Iwo Jima, the Marines who are embarked on Iwo Jima, and all the ships across the Navy have that same level of skill, that same level of dedication, and they do dangerous jobs, and they do them incredibly, incredibly well on behalf of all of us. And while that day in November of 2009 was memorable, today's another memorable day and another historic occasion. And I can't think of a better place to do this than the flight deck of the Iwo Jima, named after one of the great Marine battles in history, or a better time than Fleet Week, to formally announce the reestablishment of the Navy Reserve Officer Training Unit to Columbia University after an absence of 40 years. I'm particularly happy to be joined here today by the President of Columbia University, President Lee Bollinger, who, along with my Assistant Secretary for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, Juan Garcia, they've both been working very hard and been a driving force behind bringing NROTC back to Columbia. This is also a very personal day for me. 42 years ago, I was commissioned into the United States Navy at Columbia University. I was 20 years old. I had just finished my midshipman summer cruise. I had flown back into McGuire Air Force Base and got orders there to come to New York City, contact the commanding officer of the NROTC unit at Columbia, and be commissioned. And I'm very proud to be a Columbia naval officer. I also want to recognize the members of the Columbia faculty and staff who are here today and who also have worked incredibly hard to make today happen, as well as Provost Joseph Hoffman from SUNY Maritime and his Naval ROTC staff, who through their campus will offer a lot of the classes which Columbia midshipmen will take. And I said the formal reestablishment because in a very real way, Columbia has always been a strong partner for the United States military. The navy blue of the Navy and the lighter blue of Columbia have always been together supporting the Navy and the other branches of our service. Dozens of veterans, dozens of active duty members are at Columbia every year. And Columbia's School of International and Public Affairs is one of the most highly recognized leaders in international security policy in the country. Renewal of this formal relationship, though, will serve to bring a whole lot of new and talented officers into the Navy and Marine Corps every year. And the presence of NROTC, I think, will enrich and strengthen both services and the educational experience for all students. In order to best serve our nation, our military has to strive to be reflective of the nation it serves. And it does not serve our country well if any part of society does not share in the honor of its defense. The 159 universities and colleges which have NROTC units today produce an extremely talented group of officers from a variety of regions, a variety of perspectives, a variety of backgrounds. But for decades, 40 years in this case, the lack of a formal military presence on too many of our country's campuses resulted in so many undergraduates leaving college having little or no contact with anyone who serves. And these relationships matter. Our nation's universities produce the country's future political, economic, scientific, and business leadership. The education of leaders is about the exposure to new and different ideas, to varied viewpoints, to the full range of possibilities open to the graduates of that university. At a time when only 1% of this country serves in uniform, interaction with officer candidates may be the only window into military life that many graduates will ever have. So, I'm very happy to be here to mark the return of NROTC to a great university, to Columbia. It is good for Columbia, it is good for the military, it is good for our country. Together, we have made a decision to enrich the experience open to Columbia students, make our military better, make our nation stronger. Because with exposure comes understanding, and with understanding comes strength. Thank you very much. So hearkening back a little bit to my days as a surface warfare officer, President Bollinger, you have the deck.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We would also like to express our condolences for the loss of the service member. So Secretary Mabus deserves an enormous amount of credit for sensitively and persuasively beginning this process of reestablishing relations between the Navy, the services, and our universities like Columbia, and I want to recognize him for that. I'd also like to recognize Secretary Garcia, Dr. Joseph Hoffman, SUNY Provost, Captain Driscoll, Commanding Officer of ROTC, Captain Chessie, Mike Rothfeld, who's one of our trustees, Peter Hahn, who's the Dean of General Studies, and on behalf of all the deans, he speaks for the importance of this alliance. Sharon O'Halloran, who's the head of the Senate, University Senate, and who really helped lead us to this moment. All the senior administrators, Susan Glancy, who's worked on this, my chief of staff, so effectively, and especially our student veterans. It's important also, just as a personal note for me to say, that my father, who is 86 years old now, joined the Marines in beginning of World War II, flew a very small torpedo bomber plane in the Pacific, and arrived on Iwo Jima shortly after the great assault there. And all the time I was growing up, I lived the memories of his service in that war. And the glass of sand from Iwo Jima sort of represents that in my family life. We're honored to be here on the flight deck of the Iwo Jima with Secretary Mavis during Fleet Week, an event here in New York which some of our student veterans have told us actually led to their finding out through word of mouth about Columbia as a place to come to college or graduate school after their service. Further up the river at Morningside Heights, we are actually hosting sessions for prospective students among the sailors and Marines here in the city for this celebratory week. As many of you know, in recent years we have welcomed hundreds, literally hundreds, of talented veterans as undergraduate, graduate, and professional students at Columbia. And they have added to the diversity of experience and perspectives so essential to making the university a place of intellectual discovery and shared experiences. So I want to make a special welcome to some of our Columbia Mill vets who are here with us today. We are very proud of your service and very proud that you are part of Columbia. We have a President of the United States who happens to be a Columbia graduate, a Secretary of Defense, a Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and beside me, a Secretary of the Navy, who have all spoken compellingly of the need to ensure that we bring about a better, deeper relationship between our military and civilian society, including our great universities. This is a message Admiral Mullen brought to Columbia in a remarkable day in the spring a year ago. It is a message we have conveyed by our commitment to welcoming so many veterans to our academic community. And it is a message delivered last month by our University Senate, supported by our Council of Deans, for bringing ROTC back to Columbia after more than 4 decades. The civilian and military leaders of our armed forces took a courageous role in ending the policy of don't ask, don't tell, which made it impossible for universities to fulfill our own personal commitment to equal rights and equal opportunity. This was a great step forward for America's ongoing journey in fulfilling its highest ideals, providing equal rights for all citizens. Now, there's a lot of shared history here. Some of you know, as Secretary Mavis has pointed out, that Columbia's long and honorable history of service includes a midshipman's school for thousands of naval officers, candidates, and the V-12 training program for medical personnel during World War II. The founding of our School of General Studies, led by Dean Hahn in the aftermath of the war, was in large part to provide Columbia undergraduate education to returning veterans. And during the First and Second World Wars, Columbia College of Physicians and Surgeons created and staffed hospital facilities in Europe for wounded combat troops. Much of this history and more is told in an interactive Roll of Honor website, which was launched as part of the dedication of our newest war memorial, now mounted on one of the pivotal spots on campus, the entry to Butler Library. Beyond our generations of alumni who have served, there's also a notable piece of intellectual history. A key part of our undergraduate core curriculum focuses on issues of contemporary society, bringing in classic works to think about those issues. That actually began in World War I, when the U.S. Army commissioned Columbia faculty to create a course on war aims for the Student Army Training Corps. The goal was not exactly scholarly balance, but it was an argument for the Allied cause. As the college dean at the time put it, quote, its significance rested on the fundamental principle that in the long run, man's accomplishment can rise no higher than his ideals, and that an understanding of the worth of the cause for which one is fighting is a powerful weapon in the hands of an intelligent man. Today we would say, of course, intelligent men and women. The key point is that after the war, the course soon developed into a serious consideration of the difficult challenges and responsibilities of democratic citizenship, and along with literature humanities, became a core of our intellectual tradition at Columbia. When you look around the world and see the extraordinary responsibility that our service men and women, especially our officer corps, are assuming in representing our nation and our values in a complex and very, very different world, facing daily choices that call not only for courage, but human insight, then we can see just how important it is for us to support this historic re-engagement with our academic community. We therefore look forward to resuming formal recognition of Naval ROTC by Columbia after the effective date of the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and to having Columbia's future Navy and Marine Corps option midshipmen then participate through the NROTC unit hosted at SUNY Maritime College. We are glad to be part of this partnership. I have confidence that with the return of ROTC, Columbia will be an even more valuable forum for enhancing the relationship between our military and civil society in the years ahead. Again, I thank you, Secretary Mavis, for pursuing this historic agreement, and I'm proud to be with you and all of you here today. Thank you.